Hello Mat 1 students, welcome back to Onshape. Today we're going to be looking at your butcher block project and how to design the template that you'll use to cut out the outside detail of your butcher block project, as well as the markings for where we're going to place feet for your butcher block project on the bottom side. To get started today, we're going to go ahead and click on create, and we're going to be creating a document. When you create a document, make sure to include your name in there somehow. I always like to use my last name and the project that I'm working on. In this case, it is Butcher Block or BB, and I'm going to call this Drawing. You'll open up a new workspace. This is going to be our starting point for actually creating our drawing. If you remember from all the demonstrations and practices we've done in class, we're going to be drawing in the top view for majority of the work that we do here in this class. So we're going to go ahead and hide the front and the right planes simply by clicking on the little eyeball next to those planes over on the left side of your screen. So if you left click on the eyeball, it makes those invisible, hides it from your view. So the only view that we need to have available to us is going to be the top view. So we'll go ahead and click Sketch to start a sketch. It's going to ask you to select a sketch plane. In this case, we're going to select the top plane. And I always like to show that I'm drawing only on the top plane. So right now I'm in the isometric view, which gives me that 3D view. So if we click on the top of our cube over on the right side of our screen, we can change that so we're looking directly at the top view of our drawing. So what we need to do to get started is draw our outside of our butcher block project. And the size requirement that I'm giving you is 13 inches long by 10 inches wide. So we're going to use the rectangle tool up at the top here to get started by drawing that rectangle. If you left click and drag, you'll be able to draw out a box. It does not have to be the exact size of our project because we're going to go ahead and dimension that. Make sure you do not left click on the number. All you have to do is simply type in the number. So in this case, it's highlighting our length here. We're going to go ahead and type in 13 and hit enter. And then we're also going to type in 10 because that's showing our width is highlighted. Type that in, hit enter as well, and that gives us our 10 by 13 butcher block project. So the first thing we're going to do from here is we're going to offset this outside box 1.5 inches to mark out where our feet are going to get drilled. And this is going to be very helpful when we start talking about the drill press. So I'm still using the rectangle tool right now, so I want to go ahead and unclick that or hit escape so it's no longer highlighted. And the tool we're going to be looking at is the offset tool. Kind of looks like a thumbs up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that icon there, and I'm going to click on one side of my rectangle. It doesn't matter which side, but I'm going to hold that click in and drag, and you'll see that all 4 sides of my rectangle can be offset at the same time. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that in and let go. So I have all 4 sides of my rectangle offset in, and we're going to make sure to change this number from what it currently is, whatever it is on your screen, to 1.5. And so each corner here of this rectangle is going to be the center point for where we're going to drill a hole for the feet that we're going to place on the bottom of our peg of our butcher block project. Now to resemble what is going to look like a foot, we're going to put a circle here to identify that that's going to be the foot, and then we're going to delete some of the extra lines here to just keep things organized for us. So to do that, we're going to unclick our offset button because we don't need that anymore. I'm going to click on the circle button or circle icon. Specifically, there's a lot of different types of circles to choose from. We want to make sure that center point circle is the one that's highlighted, and that's the one that's the default option on your screen. So if you go to the left corner or any corner of that offset box that we just created, click on the point there. Remember, that's the center point of your circle, and you can just go ahead and draw a circle and left click. And then we'll identify the diameter. The diameter we know is going to be 0.5. And how we know this is asking for the diameter is if you look at the symbol in front of the number there. It looks like a circle with a line through it. That is the symbol for diameter. So we're going to go ahead and type in 0.5 and hit enter. And it's going to change that over to a half inch circle with a diameter there of 0.5. Again, it's going to label that for us, and we know that it says diameter. Next, we'll do that to all the other corners, repeating the same step. So we see a circle at every corner that we just created using that offset tool for that box. If you make a mistake and you accidentally type in the wrong number, you can always go back and redimension that. If I unclick my circle icon here, I can go ahead and use what's called the dimension tool to change that dimension, or I can simply click on the dimension and I can type in that number and hit enter and it'll change that for me. So I'm good, I don't need to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and keep what I have. But now what I want to do is I want to delete these lines here. Anytime we're creating a drawing in this class, we want to try to keep our drawings as organized and as clean as possible. So in order to do that, we're going to use what's called the trim tool. It looks like a pair of scissors. And we're going to click on that icon and select what lines we want to cut or erase from our drawing. In this case, we don't need this rectangle or this edge of the rectangle. We simply only need the corners and that circle that we just drew. And you can see how it creates a line segment in between any objects that would intersect. And so this is where our feet will be drawn on or drilled out using the drill press later in this project. So there I have my first step of my project created. This is going to be the template later that we'll print out. The next thing we're going to do is design the outside profile for our butcher block project. Now we could keep it a simple rectangle, but that's kind of boring. So instead we're going to change things up and we're going to make it our own. So for this project, or for this step, we're going to go ahead and use the offset button one more time. And we're going to click and drag. And this time we only want our box to be offset 0.75 in from the outside edge. That would be 3/4. So we'll type in 0.75 and hit enter. So this is the material that you are able to work within, this space that my cursor is currently falling in. Anywhere in here you can change the design. My recommendation to you is to keep two sides semi-straight. What do I mean by that? If I were wanting to cut some type of detail, primarily I would probably do that on the ends of my butcher block, the shorter part compared to the length. And this is especially important for those of you that might want to laser engrave for this project. And that would be happening right here in the middle of my project. By not having any straight edges on your butcher block project, it's going to make it really difficult to get your engraving centered on your board without having to kind of guess and check. So my recommendation to you, like I said, is to keep two sides or maybe even at least one side straight, because it's going to be the edge that we measure from later on. So for my example here, I just want to round the corners over, kind of do something different. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some other lines here just to help me organize myself and keep myself ready to go for starting points and stopping points for my drawing. So I'm going to unclick my offset button or hit escape. And I'm also going to go ahead and use what's called the extend button here. And I want to extend this line out to the outside edge of my rectangle. I actually want to keep the longer side straight. And so I'm just going to go ahead and extend the shorter end lines. Whoops. And I'm going to do that on both sides here. Same thing. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and draw some type of detail along this edge. Now you could use a lot of different tools. You could use the fillet tool, which is very simple. If you left click on the two intersecting lines there, you could round the corner. You could also use the spline tool, which I know a lot of students like to use. You can use this by simply clicking on a point, making another point, maybe I want it in here, clicking again, and as you can see, as I draw this line, it's not going to be a straight line, it's actually going to start to have some type of radius or curve to it. Now that's another option. You could do this around the entire edge of the board too. You can go crazy with that. However, what I want is just a simple curve. So let me delete that. So to draw my curve, I'm going to use the 3-point arc. Now, because it's asking for 3 points, what I'm going to do is I need to find the center point for this side here so I can identify those 3 points of my arc. I know that this overall width is 10 inches, so I'm going to offset this one more time, 5 inches in, and that's going to give me my center point for my arc here, which I can then go ahead and draw that in. So here's my first point, here's my second point, and my third point would be that center, and that is what I'm going to use there. So all I need to do is left click, oops, and that's going to give me the drawing or the design I want for my butcher block project. Yours might be different. Now again, as we talked about, we want a clean drawing, right? And this is very messy right now. So we're going to go ahead and finish up drawing the other side as well, and then go back and trim and delete any lines before we move on any further. So what I'm going to do again is click on that center point or 3-point arc, click on my top, click on my bottom, and find the center here and hit enter, and that's going to lock that in as well. And now that's ready to go, so I can go ahead and close out of my 3-point arc or hit escape and trim anything that I don't need. Now at this point, the scissors are gone. It's actually going to be found in the drop down. You might have to look for it a little bit. And again, I just want to get rid of this outside edge on my ends here. So I don't want to necessarily delete anything inside. I just want to delete this outside edge on both left and right side. So I'm going to delete those lines. You might find there's some red marks on your project. That's from over-dimensioning. If that happens to you, hit escape or undo. Most of the time is you just repeated something you shouldn't have repeated. Okay, so I have everything I need as far as the outside edge of my project. I have my points here. I can go ahead and delete these other lines that I have on my project that I don't need either. Just select those and you can hit delete and they will go away. And so there's what I want for the outside edge of my project. Now I could do some of the other things here. I could round this over a little bit more, but I decided for this project that this is what I wanted. Again, completely up to you as far as what your outside edge might look like, but this at least gives you a chance to kind of experiment and play around with the different tools in the program and to kind of figure out what you want your project to look like as you move forward with the project. If you have any questions, please feel free to check in with your teacher, and if you do have an issue with the video, make sure to pause it and maybe refresh it and go back and watch again. Looking forward to seeing your designs.